So, hi, you guys. I'm glad we could all get together finally for this chat over the third wave by Dave. I wanted to let Dr. LaFerry know that we're doing this in a game format and as Lego people, sort of, in Roblox because some of us feel like, or I personally feel like the anonymity of avatars and virtual meetings makes it a little easier for me, for example, to discuss and more comfortable in the environment, and I don't have to worry about getting out of my pajamas or if I'm doing it on my phone versus if I'm doing it in my bedroom or in my office. We're just in a place together that is the same, so there's a connectivity, and that's kind of why I love the idea that we live in a room like that, a game. What do you guys think?
I think that's exactly what what our intention was, to also explore different practices. And I think that's the whole point that we do for making this discussion as a game format.
And I'm really interested in game-based learning and game theory, and I'm not really sure what exactly we're supposed to call it, but I'm really interested in it. And the thing that I'm interested in about games is the motivational factor. You know, games are really motivating and they're really engaging, and I think that using them in education is very powerful. And I actually am not a gamer, so, you know, practicing these kind of things really helps me open my eyes to what students see, and that's important to us in education. So let's go ahead and continue with our book study.
Do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, so the first question I think we have is that in chapter 3, I think the author has examined it. He talked about a lot of things, but I think what he believes that the third wave is happening right now, and it's taking place at this moment. It's not like something that's going to happen in the future, but I think the third wave is happening right now. It's you know, the people, the entrepreneurs, and the people who are the innovators need to take action at this time. So I think I guess the first question is that do you agree with the assessment that you made that the third wave is happening right now? And if you agree, or if you don't agree, why you don't agree? If you agree, why do you agree?
Well, I can take that one first. I attend South by Southwest every year. The last couple of years, I was able to attend the interactive portion of it as well. And I do believe that the third wave is here. I don't believe that it's coming. I think it's already here. I've seen innovation like I never thought I would see in my life. I've seen companies interacting with innovators and innovators looking for companies in order to partner, and that was one of the things that Kate kept referring to was partnership in the 3 Ps. But I think that innovators really are coming out of the woodwork, and as part of the third wave, he said that that leaders really need to step up, and companies need to step up and come together and make partnerships, and I think that's the aspect that's most notable for me, because I'm attending South by Southwest. I see it. I see the innovation. I see the people having meetings, because I get to go as press, and so I'm able to ask questions from a press standpoint as opposed to being an innovator or an entrepreneur or a leader interested in partnering with somebody or whatever. And I've been privy to some of these conversations, and it's here, and that's why I believe it's here, because of my personal experience.
So I'd like to jump in with a quote from a leadership and higher education article that I read by Bodwin. And he said, standing on the shore vigilantly watching for a tsunami that is inexorably moving toward them, somehow missing the reality that the future they envision is already upon them. Many of the changes they contemplate, such as the blending of online and face-to-face instruction, are occurring at a dramatic pace worldwide. So I think that, in higher education especially, we're looking for these changes that are happening, but they're already here. We're already experiencing them, and I experience them as well in my job working in higher ed. So the other thing is that social processes are complex and dynamic, and they're impacted by economic factors and social factors, and innovation will continue to evolve, but we have to be able to keep up with it.
Yeah, I think keeping up is one of the biggest things, and a factor that Case keeps coming back to actually in his book is keeping up with it and looking forward to it. If you're not a forward looker or a forward thinker, I think that's where the issues are going to come in.
Yeah, that's right. I think I agree with you guys that the third wave is already happening. Things similar to that. We already saw some great examples that are happening. Just like for the last 3 years, no one knew that companies like Uber is going to pop up, and then within a year or so, they're going to be like $1 billion and billions of dollars of companies that can generate billions of dollars. And now they are expanding to different countries and throughout the world. So, I think his assessment is true. The only challenge is that do we have so many people who are taking advantage and stepping up the game? Maybe we don't see that yet, but the third wave is already here. So I agree with him with his assessment as well. I think that we have so much potential that's happening right now. It's just a matter of people to wake up a little bit and they step up the game and start innovating and creating new things. One of the challenges maybe I think it is most of the people they are struggling figuring out so much technology that we already have it versus thinking of creating new things and coming up with a new idea. I think part of the suggestion that we made in the book is that in the first wave and the second wave, people were thinking figuring out using the technology, figuring out the technology and coming up with new things. But I think at this time, we need to change that thinking and think in a way where we can use the tools that we have and make it more like we can monetize the tools that we already have in place. And those examples, those companies that like an Uber, and those are the companies similar to Uber, they didn't create something new. They just monetized the tools that we already have in place, and then they created billions of dollars, like within a short period of time. So I think what he's trying to do is to make a paradigm shift in the way we think in terms of creating new business and generating revenue and relate to the technology that we have in place.
I agree with you, Abdi. I think that is really it is really important to understand how that transition is taking place, which is why I thought that Case's 3 Ps were pretty darn interesting, because I never thought about it that way. I never thought about it as needing partnership. And then, of course, the policies, that seems logical, but very few of us know anything about policies in general, much less, for a global enterprise or whatever. And so you need to know when to hire somebody and such. But of those 3 Ps, which one of those is the most challenging? Either one of you, I'm asking kind of both of you, which is most challenging for a leader if you were a leader, say, in one of those jobs that we looked up earlier this semester, and almost every single one of them had something about managing people and managing groups and managing teams and so on. And if you were a leader, which one would you find the most challenging of the three P's? Would it be partnership, policy, or perseverance? And why?
I think, if I start with, I think policy, to me, policy would be the most challenging for me. The reason I'm saying that is because the businesses that we create right now will not be limited to only one a country or one within one country. We need to create companies that can work globally and go through different countries. So can go to different governments and systems throughout the world, and if you want to create a company that can, reach out throughout the world, keeping up with the policies and rules and regulations and laws in different countries, that could be the most challenging for a leader who's leading a company that's going to be a global company. So I think that would be the most challenging. Partnership is going to be a challenge as well. But I think when you look at all the three, the most challenging will be, I think, the policy, because we need to keep up with all of those different laws and different regulations in different countries and policies.
Aaron, what do you think about that?
I agree with Abdi. I think that policy may be the trickiest. I feel like partnerships and persistence are things that really happen organically, and they'll either happen or they'll fizzle out. But I think that policy can get tangled up a lot in, red tape and things like that. But I also believe that policy is fed from partnerships and persistence. And if you have those two things, that can help to enact those policies. The other thing is that disruption presents some serious challenges to innovation policy, and granular analysis, where we really drill down to actually what the data is trying to tell us, is really important to do that so that we can make timely and appropriate decisions about policy. So that is, something that I read about in a article from Call and Vermeulen from 2017, and that's pretty recent that they're saying that. We still have to drill down. We still have to get that granular information. What do you think, Laurie?
Now that now y'all are talking about that, policy, especially when you think in terms of global, I thought partnership, because every time Kate talks about getting partners, it was people in the know. It was networking, but it was networking on a much larger scale than I could ever imagine myself. And so I tried to narrow it down to think about if I were, a school leader, or if I were a leader in higher education, or if I were a leader of a company, how would I be able to network on that level in order to help me be competitive and the market? That's what I thought. Partnership, policy. I thought that I would read policy, or I could always find an expert on policy. But partnership to me sounded like networking, name-dropping type networking. And I saw a lot of that happening at South by Southwest. People talking to each other. The most innovative ideas, though, were from the Japanese and the Chinese, and they were young kids. And when I say young, of course, everybody's young to me. You're young to me, Ayra.
Thanks.
But when you see these kids, and for example, the Ring doorbell, that was not an innovation from around here. It started out someplace else. Those little tags that you can find your phone with, or that you unlock your dorm with, or those kind of things, those were all kids that invented those things. So how do those kids network? How do they find partners? How do they convince people to invest in them? And they do go to places like South by Southwest and tech conferences and other places where they can get exposure, but that costs them money. And so to me, partnership was the most difficult of the two because you can get somebody who can spin for you like a spin doctor does in the government, and a good salesperson, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if you don't have the connections and you don't know a way to get those partnerships, then that everything's lost. And policy, I just kind of thought, well, you know, I could hire people to tell me what I can and cannot do, and even if it is global, that was my perspective, and I'm rambling, so I'm stopping now.
I think you made a good assessment, and I partially agree with your conclusion about the partnership and how difficult it will be if you want to really build something that is in the bigger scale. And as you said, and you know, when we talked about when we engaged with trying to build that partnership with Apple, and we spend months and months renting an apartment in Silicon Valley and going back and forth to their offices and all that. It took a long time. And money. Time and effort and money for him to secure that partnership, which again fell apart at that point. Although they found they get some money in return, but you know, it takes time. But I think what you need for the partnership, if you get people, you get a good quality people who can inspire other people and explain your strategy to your partners and show them how they can benefit partnering with you. I think you can establish that relationship. Of course, it's going to be costly. It's going to take some time to build that trust. Because when you're creating a partnership, the first thing is creating that trust and what am I getting in return partnering with you? What is the market? What am I getting from? So, but I think it's going to take some time. But I think what we need is to get people who have the skill and also the outgoing, the personality that they can inspire other people, and also explain your strategy as your company orientation as well. But I agree with you. You just shifted my understanding a little bit about and shed a light on how partnerships could be more difficult. I agree with you that we can't underestimate a partnership. It's not going to be something that it is hard to. But still, the government. I think the policy to me it is something that is a little bit more difficult. The reason I say that is, laws change sometimes. All of a sudden you join partnership with a company and you build your company maybe globally, and all of a sudden one country changes their laws, and then they have tariffs and all those things happening, and then all of a sudden you can't import or export your products, or even if you try, you're not making any money. So those kind of things are the things that I think I think that policy is difficult.
Well, what do you think, Ayra? I mean, what about perseverance?
Well, like I said, I think that kind of happens organically, and I feel like, if it's going to fizzle out, it's going to fizzle out. And I think persistence is really important. But I feel like that one's it's kind of the wild card. What do y'all think about that?
I agree that it is kind of the wild card. I think that it does come down to personnel and it does come down to money and so on. Let's face it, I mean, he had his foot in the door way back when he started AOL. And when AOL, for one of the better terms, to use another terrible cliche, went belly up, he had his money diversified. He already had made partnerships elsewhere. And so he was a forward thinker, so his perseverance comes from being a forward thinker. I was going to ask another question. I wanted to I'm going to ask one of my questions because, oh my gosh.
Where'd Abdi go?
I don't know. Where did Abdi go?
Are you still there?
I was going to ask if you guys wanted to go out.
Did I disappear?
I bet he went shadowy again.
Oh, hold on a second. Did I disappear?
You disappeared. Where are you?
We're learning more and more about this game. Where did he go?
That's right. We are learning more and more about this game. I love it.
Well, another thing we should have said at the beginning, Aaron, I don't know if we can add it in or whatever.
We can splice it in.
Feedback. But when you said that gamified education, I think gamified meetings. I think I went over to Apple the other day and had lunch with a friend of mine, and it was like being in an airport. The people watching was incredible. The different cultures, the different countries, the different personalities, the different styles of the population in the cafeteria, which is all personal chefs and all this other kind of stuff. Just amazing. And that group, they don't settle for just sitting behind a keyboard constantly and typing in data or researching or doing whatever. They want to play games. They want to interact in ways that are creative and innovative and exciting. And I think that our students, because of the way our technology and our technological devices are ruling our world, taking over, what we do and how we do it, that gaming is a way to bring us back into small groups, out of something like Facebook and put us in small groups.
Right. It's more personal.
Texting their neighbors in classrooms. You have your college level kids that are texting their neighbors in classrooms, their friends in classrooms, and you're trying to teach literature or history or physics or whatever, and they're often social settings. If we can bring them back in the small environment the way we are in this small environment, even though we're interacting physically very little, we are going to go outside and enjoy the river here in a second. But because we're able to interact in here, it's just us. We aren't distracted by Logan or by the dog barking or whatever. We're in this room and we're doing our thing. And it personalizes it, and that's something we're losing. We're losing the personal aspect of teaching and of business and of training. I mean, all kinds of things. And if we can bring it into something like Second Life or something like Roblox here, then we're personalizing it more, even though we're not truly our own faces in there. I think it's a good way to meet.
It is a good way to meet, and it's a good way to portray who you want to be and who the image that you want to portray to the world, and that's pretty important.
Y'all want to go outside?
Yeah, let's go see if we can get to the river.
Okay. Oh, and but anyway, Ayra, why don't you ask one of your questions, and I can start off answering. I know I have an answer to one of your questions. I don't know. I'm out in the yard now. Let's get to the river first.
So,
I don't know how to get out of the room.
I can't even go straight.
Follow us. So Steve Case proposed a third wave czar who is powerful enough to be able to nimbly and strategically implement changes to the system. So he is referring to the government, but what skills and qualities must somebody possess as a change agent in an individual institution to be able to move the organization forward? And I speak to this because I am the change agent at my organization, and I work at a small liberal arts school, and I have to really effectively persuade people on, why you should use the learning management system, why you should use the technology at all, and, things like that. So I'm wondering, what skills and qualities are good to hone in that kind of position?
Well, I can't find you guys. I'm on the bridge.
Uh-oh.
You want to join me on the bridge?
Abdi, turn around.
But I
I'm
can
still in the
start
room.
answering that question if you'd like. I think that for me, and this is another key, when you're a change agent, when you're talking about being, and we are innovators. I was the same way on my campus. I was encouraging people, trying to get people to get into Minecraft, getting into more integration. I mean, actual integration of technology, and not just a bunch of computers that kids sit at and write papers and so on. And I still can't find you guys.
I'm here.
For me, oh, there you are. For me, patience is important because if we imagine the three of us, when we were working on this particular assignment, and we were getting into a meeting, and when Abdi couldn't get in Second Life, and we didn't panic because we were ready for it. We knew that we could just switch or change or do whatever because we're comfortable in that spin. But imagine if one of us wasn't ready for that. Like it was going to be Second Life, and that was it. I spent all day learning it, and then she didn't let me get in there. I couldn't. I'm going to miss, and that's it. And I've worked with people like that, and Ayra, I know you have too.
Absolutely.
And you have to have patience with those people because their learning curve and their frustration is minuscule. I mean, their zero to frustration is like a hairline. And if you don't have patience with them, then it's the point where you're basically talking to a wall. You might as well just talk to a wall. Their eyes are glazed over and they've turned it off. And so I think patience in terms of being a change agent, in terms of being a good leader, you have to have patience. You have to have an open mind. And my last thing in that is you have to be a forward thinker. You have to see what's going to happen next. So if you don't research and stay on top of things, and if you can't continue that level of change for yourself and for the team that you're leading or the group that you're inspiring, then I don't think that you're going to be successful. And that's my take in terms of being that person, the change agent or the leader of a team.
Yeah, I agree with you, Laurie, on those points. And I think one thing I could add is that the people when they don't when they kind of like say no to the change, it is because people don't like the change, or this is human nature that we resist the change. And for the most part, people that we are dealing with are not like the millennials who are born with the technology, and they can easily use technology as a equipment. Especially when you're dealing with people who are learning the system, and they learn and they feel comfortable what they were using before, and they try to come up with new things. They will have better systems. So understanding as a leader that there would be similar systems before or from the future, and come up with a way that we can make them understand why it is so important that we need to use this new thing versus what we have been using before. Show them the benefit and how easy it could be and how beneficial it would be for the company and for themselves, and to use the new thing. So that's, I think, understanding your people and recognizing that there would be similar systems, and be prepared that to explain why it is important and all the benefits that they will get from. That will be, I think, one thing that would help the leader or the agents of change.
Yeah, I think that you all are both right, and a lot of it comes down to trust and inspiring trust in the people that you're providing a service for. And that's something that's really important in my job, and why I will stay at my job for quite a while, because I've worked for a long time to engender that trust in them. And so when I go to them with some crazy idea about technology, they're not like, okay, no, Ayra, we're not going to do that. But they actually do listen to me at this point. And it takes time, and it does take a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of understanding.
Well, yeah, I agree. And when Abdi mentioned change, I'm a 30-year veteran teacher, so and I just retired, so I'm older. But I was never afraid of change, and so age wasn't a thing for me. Age wasn't a thing for me in terms of learning new technology, but quite often it is. And I think it's important to note that Kate pointed out that old dogs in some way just sit back, and I'm not quoting him. I'm sort of a metaphor. I'm using a metaphor. And you say old dogs kind of sit there and watch things happen. But he also mentioned old dogs that do learn the new tricks and that do go out there and seek the change. And he says that there's a difference. He says some will sit back and sort of watch things happen, and others will sit back and wait patiently and then become a part of it. And I'm wondering if, and there was a whole section that he did on people that were willing to, so going, like being raised in California, for example, and going to college in California, but then moving out to LA. And I just wanted to know, in terms of those professors, where he was saying that imagine in 2020 or 2040 or whenever it was, basically driving away from Silicon Valley or driving away from tech capital and moving into other places, and even mentioned my hometown, Austin. But would either of you be willing to move yourself and or your family to a completely different part of the country if you thought your startup had a better chance of taking flight? Like if you thought that you had a chance to really make it big or be a part of something?
I think it was a great question. I moved a few times to different states for a job, and sometimes it didn't work it out. I had to come back and live in 6 months because family didn't like the area or something like that. But if I'm moving for a job, that's a different story. But if I am moving for the company that I'm starting with, and I know that my venture is going to succeed in that area, and I'm going to make something greater for the business and for the company, I think I will be willing to sacrifice moving to a different place, but that depends on, the agreement between me and the families and all the other things. But for me, I think if the benefits are clear and I can see a clear vision from the company going to that area, and something more beneficial is going to come out, then of course, then I will be willing to shift it. I wouldn't be staying only in the area for the sake of staying. If there is more potential, why not? And if you look at the book, when he was talking about when he was building partnerships, he's been away for like months and almost like a year or something like that, just trying to get a partnership signed in one video with Apple. And he spent that much money and time and effort just to get that partnership. How did he didn't go? I did not go to Silicon Valley and spend money and spend all that time and energy. Maybe his company wouldn't be getting to this level that they came into it. So if you're trying to build a business and you're trying to explore the opportunities, I think it's a good idea to move, whether it's temporarily or whether it's for good, it's to move and see where the opportunity is. Even if it is outside the country, then it's still you need to find the way that you can get that opportunity because there is none.
Ayra, what do you think? I thought it would be kind of scary because when you just described scary to me, because to me I kept hearing the word risk. I move everything and there's a risk. But I don't know, Ayra, what do you think?
Well, it comes down to something that's a really individual decision. And, you brought up age a little bit ago, and I think age is an interesting concept because, like most of the tech savviest people I know are pretty old. So, I grew up in the 80s, and, a lot of my uncles were really tech savvy, and, I had a lot of friends like that. And even now, like, I meet people, and most of the time when they're like really, really somebody that I want to listen to, they are older. So I think that's really interesting, because there's all of these, pigeonholes where we want to think that students and young students are more tech savvy, but I just don't think it's true. I don't buy into that stereotype. The other thing is that it's really individual where people want to be in their lives. Like, maybe 20 years ago I would have been willing to move for my big idea, but now I'm not. I moved here to North Carolina because this is where I want to be. My mom's here. We have a farm. I love that. And I think that the internet and the technological advances are able to let us live the lifestyles we want. I don't have to go as a tech person. I don't have to go to a big city and fight the traffic and all of that. I don't have to go to Silicon Valley. I can stay right here on my farm in the middle of nowhere. And, that's something that's pretty powerful in this day and age, that we are able to do that. So I think it's really individual.
I agree with you on that. I've only got like 25% of my left on my battery, but you say that about being able to be home and on the farm and near your family and so on. That was one of the things that I kind of felt that maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I do have an ancient memory, but that Pace didn't really focus a lot on this idea of the virtual world or the virtual meetings and the virtual leadership in classrooms. And I think that because you can sit on your farm and do things, and because you can go to your job every day, that you don't have to go so far, that you're happier and you're having a good life. But there are challenges with being virtual in terms of leadership, don't you think?
There sure are. And, I could do everything that I do in my job. I could do it from right here in my living room. However, there's cultural expectations that you have to meet. So my organization is not ready for that kind of world. So I go to work every day. I drive into work and I'm there because that's what, they expect of me culturally. Now, the IT guy calls me and he says, I need to kick you out of our office because I'm running cables. I don't care. Like, I can go work in the library, or I can work at home, or I can work anywhere, but that's not everybody's ready for that.
I agree. I
agree. I agree part of it, but I think my thinking is that I think there are two things. One is that if we are creating something bigger than us, that's something that we want to create a bigger scale and kingdom, that requires a lot of resources, that requires a lot of travel, that requires a relocation, that requires finding a good location for the company headquarters, where the company is going to be and all that stuff. So if you are building something like a global scale and bigger scale company, and that's, I think, what I'm referring to, that I would be able to move it to see where where the company can thrive and succeed. If like you said, Ayra, in this technology age, you can work from home. I work for a company where most of the people, even the managers, like almost half of the people, and they work from remote. We have like a 40 instructional designers, and I think only maybe 20 of them are in the office. The rest of 20 are outside, and even the managers are outside too. They live in different places and different states. They live in Iowa. They live in different states. So, and some of the directors are also outside. So it is possible. Like, you can be whatever you want to do by staying in your home and your farm and enjoying your family. And I like that kind of a lifestyle. But I think what Casey was referring to, which was creating something at bigger scale is, I think that would require, if I am trying to do something at a bigger scale, and it requires something to move and go to different places to venture it out, I think I would be willing to do it. But like you said, it is a personal decision whether you want to sacrifice that. Of course, you're going to lose a lot of things that you had in your home and with your family and all that stuff. But I think personally, me, if I am creating something at a bigger scale, yeah, I would be.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's really individual.
Oh, what happened? Okay. Yes. So maybe I would have one follow-up question with this, and then I think my question is that it's about the leadership. I think that is the book, when you look at the book, we talked about part of it was his life in his early and life, and the way he grew up with his father and all that stuff, and the way he found himself working for those companies, and he struggled a lot in finding a job after he graduated and all that stuff. But he, in chapter 7, I think he talked about, and at some point, when the company was thriving, he became the CEO. They voted for him, and he became the CEO for the company, and he was so excited and keep pushing and working so hard. When later that year, within the same year, I think a few months later, they decided to go public in 1991. That's when they tried to go public. And the company agreed, the board of directors, they agreed on the decision that the executive made, which is let's go public. But they had one concern, and the concern was that Case was a young guy, and as a CEO and of the company going to public, this young Case is not going to work, and it's not going to affect the investors. So what they did was the board, they came together, and then they decided to reverse the decision they made before, which made him to be the CEO for the company. Without telling him, they just had a meeting by themselves, and they excluded him, and then they said, Case is not going to be the CEO anymore. They put him back, Jim, who was the CEO before, and they tell him later, Jim told him that he's not going to be the CEO during this transition period because he's young. Casey was so disappointed. He talked about how disappointed he was, and he thought at some point he's going to quit, and he's going to leave the company. And also some of his friends, they told him that, and his co-workers, they told him to resign it to protect. But he stuck around. What he did was he made a decision to stay with the company, that he worked so hard for that long period of time, and he didn't leave, and he continued working, although he showed his disappointment and dissatisfaction to the board and also the team, but he didn't leave. Do you think that decision that he made, and I think if that would happen to me, maybe I would quit. I don't know, maybe I would quit totally. But he stuck around, he stayed. Do you think that the decision that he made was a leadership quality, that it has something that shows his leadership quality? And if it does, what kind of leadership?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you can't quit. It's the leader. It's like the captain going down with the ship. And to me, it shows kind of a leader has to show that kind of strength. It's to pick yourself up and dust yourself off, but it's also, standing strong and stiff upper lip and all those other cliches. I'm full of them today. But Errol, what do you think? I mean, I'm down to 33% battery, by the way, guys. 23% battery.
We're almost done. So I read an article by NG, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Sears, that leaders put the needs and the goals of the greater whole as a priority, and then they transcend self-interest for the collective benefit. And that becomes evident in transformational leaders. So I think that's an important point. And I'm sure that Steve Case felt betrayed when that happened, and trapped and frustrated, because here there's this promise of success and he's made it, but all of a sudden, like, oh, I've made it, but here's the price that I have to pay, right? So, that, and he probably thought that's a silly reason. Age is a silly reason, but we also have to pay attention to people's perceptions of what is real and what is right and that type of a thing. So I think that he stepped back and he portrayed a really, really important leadership trait to put the greater whole of the company as a benefit, and had to sacrifice a little bit in the self for that.
I agree. I think that's a good point. That when I was reading that chapter, I didn't know where it's going to end, and as I continued reading, I was like, maybe he's going to quit at some point. And all of a sudden he didn't. And later on in the book, then he came back and he became the CEO after, they went in public, and he, took the company to the next level. And I think that was a really a good quality leadership that we showed. Leaders usually would look at the bigger picture. You don't have to look only for your personal benefit.
Right.
Getting the title and getting the money that goes and all that goes, really all the benefits that come with the CEO. That's your personal benefits from getting that title. It's good, but looking at the bigger picture and the time and the effort and the energy and the knowledge that we invest in this company, from the day that we went to Silicon Valley to find that deal with Apple and everything. So all that time, and I think he did something that was opposite to what even his people, the people who were his coworkers and the other team members, what they advised to him. They told him that you can resign to protect, at least so they can do something still here. He didn't resign, he didn't do anything else. He showed his dissatisfaction to everybody, and he told him that he's disappointed, he's devastated, and all that. But he did not leave, and he did not even slow down from what he was doing before. And later on, then he won to be the leader and of the company and became the CEO. I found that was really a good lesson for everybody. He's going to be a leader for any company, and who's going to build an empire like the one they did back in their time.
Yeah, and it comes back to persistence, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I have a question for those of us who are adopters and who are change agents. Like, how do we dial down and help people out who are struggling and feeling overwhelmed and threatened by technology?
Well, I think it goes back to patience on one hand, but on the other hand, I think that chunking, I don't know of another term, in K through 12 we use the term chunking. So say you have a room full of faculty or staff or whatever, and you have different levels of technology represented in that room, and technology experience or abilities, then dialing down would, for me, include ways to chunk it so that if this person here was still doing the first chunk, you could still move on others to second chunks, so there wouldn't be a frustration level there. Does that make sense? I mean, that.
Yes, absolutely. In higher ed, we do that too.
It's a way to me, it's a way to modify for different needs. And technology is no different, because you can have little kids that are like your daughter, who can just run around the room and do all the stuff you want to do and all that kind of stuff, and then you've got other kids that can barely, type or know how to use a mouse, and then you have adults that are the same way, and they're all we're just different. People are just different. So you have to kind of understand the culture. And, Abdi, before you start, just in terms of culture, when it comes to being a leader, especially in a global world, like where we're virtual leaders or we're leaders where, like in Apple, you have staff that comes from virtually all corners of the world to work. Being culturally sensitive, being sensitive to language differences, to cultural differences, being able to adapt, and I hate the word tolerance. I don't think that's a good. I think acceptance is a good thing, but being accepting, being culturally aware, being sensitive to that. I think that as a leader, I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to enterprises that go beyond your department or your school or your city, but go out much further than that.
Yeah, that's good. I think that these are good points that you mentioned. I think as technology leaders in the company area, our clients or as employees for the company, the people that we are helping them to use these technologies to clients. So these are our clients, and I think the way we approach them to understand the new tools and the new technology that we will use, the way we approach them makes a big difference, whether they will accept or whether we will get much resistance in terms of understanding how to use those technologies. I think the learning fears that will play a role here, and I think Laurie alluded that one too as well. Understanding how the people that we are dealing with and how they learn. You have different people, like you said, Laurie, in your organization. Some people who may be a little bit more tech savvy than the other people. So understanding your people and creating approach and a different approach that you will explain to the people. You cannot use only one way to explain the technology or to help the people in the organization. You might have a different style to see how people are different and how they learn it, and then you will be able to explain better and treat them as clients, as your own students, people, how you would be able to make them understand. So I think applying the learning theories and understanding the people, and also the culture, like you said, if there is a cultural differences as well, that would be part of it. So I think that would be the key to make them understand, and there will be two benefits. One, when you understand them, you will have a better way to approach the material that you want to show them or whatever you want to show them. Number two, you're not going to get that much resistance because you understood how their approach and where they are, so you will come up with a better approach to help them understand the tools.
Excellent.
I think that's a really good point. And you know what? I went and visited my old job I still work there part-time, but I worked at a community college. So I went and visited on Tuesday, and I saw, a bunch of my old friends, and one of them was a psychology professor, and she said, "Well, Ayra, how's your school going?" And I said, "Oh, well," and I said, "You know what?" I said, I'm having to pull a lot of information from the field of psychology. It keeps going back to that. It keeps going back to learning styles and motivation and things like that. So she was pretty excited to hear that. But I think that, the more we know about those learning theories and learning styles, the better we will be at our jobs.
Okay, and I'm going to go to bed now. I'm old.
Oh, me too.
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.